On this episode of Slainte, we head to Mercator Vineyards in the Annapolis Valley. With a 200-year-old restored farmhouse serving as the heart of this artisan winery, Mercator serves up sensational pairings, unique activities, and a relaxed atmosphere, making their old-world style a vintage that can't be missed. Today, I'm headed to Mercator Vineyards in Grand Pré, Nova Scotia. But before seeing the winery for myself, I met up with the owners, Carl and Donna Sparks, at their restaurant in Halifax. I wanted to find out how they had become enamored with the wine industry in Nova Scotia and why Mercator Vineyards had caught their eye.
So my wife and I bought Yost Vineyards back in 2012, and with it went Gaspereau Vineyards and some other acreage in the Annapolis Valley. But we were looking for other vineyard properties strictly for the vines. The old farmhouse that was there, I mean, I love the property itself because I grew up on a farm back in Newfoundland many years ago. And this place really has a presence. And of course, it was actually a transfer point from the dike lands. So the produce that were coming up from the dike lands, actually where the winery is today, that was used as sort of a temporary storage, warehousing, if you will. And the farmhouse goes back over 200 years. We can't get the exact date for it. So it was a labor of love. This is not a business project. The vineyards, yes, and I think the long-term brand and some great wines coming out of this location. But the house deserved it. It was either that or it was going to be torn down. I didn't want to do that.
Wow, that's amazing. So you grew up in Newfoundland?
Yes, I did.
On a farm.
On a farm, yeah.
And so what brought you to Nova Scotia?
Oh, I was a geologist in my early life and worked pretty well all around the world. Came back to Nova Scotia, came to Nova Scotia for the very first time with Husky Bow Valley, working in the offshore projects. So did an MBA at St. Mary's, left the region as most of us have to do from time to time. And certainly back then we did, not today, thankfully, as much. And I worked most of my career in the food industry, but the wine industry has always been there for me. It's always been, I was very passionate about the wine industry very early in life. How it really, it made so much sense to me for the very first time. So my wife and I were driving back to Nice. This was in 1989, and I said, I don't know when or where, but we're going to own a winery someday. Didn't expect it would be in Nova Scotia back then, but very delighted that it is.
Next, I sat down with Donna to find out what it was about the property that really spoke to her. So Donna, tell me about Mercator Vineyards. What is it like to have restored such a beautiful property to where it is today?
When we bought it, it was in a little bit of disrepair. I mean, we were really most interested in the grapes and the vineyards itself. But after spending some time down there, you realize that the old house on the property is beautiful, and we hired Jonathan Leggett, who's a local interior designer, to do all the work for us, and it's absolutely beautiful down there now. And the views over the bluffs, it's amazing.
What are you hoping to see from Mercator in the future?
Continue to grow, for people to find it and go, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this was in Nova Scotia, how beautiful it is. I mean, sitting on the balcony on top, looking out over the vineyards.
It sounds like a wonderful experience.
It is.
Perched on a little hill overlooking the Acadian Dykelands, Mercator Vineyards is an absolute gem. To learn more about the property, I first spoke with the vineyard manager, Becca. So Becca, tell me a bit about your role here at Mercator.
I'm vineyard manager for Mercator Vineyards and for our sister company, Gasbro Vineyards.
And so what does a vineyard manager entail? What does that look like?
Pretty much anything that is involved in grape growing, from planting, from land prep really, to planting, straight through the growing process to harvesting.
There's a lot of vines out there, so I feel like you're probably very busy.
Yeah, it's busy this time of year. Usually from March until November, it's pretty much flat out. But I love it. I love the cyclic nature of the industry, where in the wintertime it's slower. You just do your pruning. You're able to take some time, and then things ramp up in the spring. You go through the growing season. Harvest is insane, and then it comes back down again. So it's not like a day-to-day job where every day is typically the same. You have a cycle, and yeah, it's very exciting every season to get started and see how things go. And every season is different, so you never get bored. Wow. This is my baby, so when we took this over, it was pretty neglected. So it was a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Blood to get it going and to get it back in shape. So I'm pretty proud of what we've done, and yeah, I love this space.
Becca, tell me a little bit about the experience that you want the customers to have when they come here.
I want the customers to feel welcome, like their family, like they've come home. They can just come in, relax. There's no pretense. We have different flights of wine that you can pair with their foods, and I think one of my favorites is the chocolate flight. Yes, Chocolates by Gabrielle. She's actually a good friend of mine, and she's a chocolatier that realized her dream of entrepreneurship a few years ago, maybe just a year ago, and she's come a long way in terms of volumes and her products. So she pairs her chocolates with our red wines, and they're pretty amazing. So that's definitely something you'd want to try.
Oh, I think so.
And there's boxes that you can take home with you.
Oh.
The salted caramel is divine.
Wow, so each wine is paired with a separate chocolate.
Yep.
That does sound like something I'm going to have to try.
Yeah, and it's unique because you don't really see that too often. You see flights, you see some pairings maybe with cheese, but you can do the chocolates.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
And especially local chocolates. Someone who's worked in our vineyard, she worked with me for a few years and until she left me for the chocolate. So.
Oh, wow. But now you pair perfectly together.
Yes, we do. Mercator is the name of the gentleman who designed the map of the world that can lay flat. The owner of our company, Carl Sparks, he was a geologist first, and I think he's fascinated by that in general, so he really wanted this new winery of his to encapsulate that.
Well, that's very exciting. It's very interesting. What are some of the other things that you offer here that maybe are unique to other locations?
We have bikes to rent. So that you can take them. We're on the Harvest Moon Trail, so you can rent the bikes and even take them downtown, or you can take them over to Gasbro, which is a 5-minute drive, but I've never done it on a bike. There's a couple hills, so I wouldn't, that's not my thing. But yeah, so we have bikes here, and you can access the trail just for walking if you want to do that. We have lunch provided by the noodle guy, so you could do picnics. We have picnics that you can take out in the vineyard. Yeah, and just enjoying the location in general, because it's,
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Next up on Slainte, Becca and I head into the vineyard to check on some of the baby vines. And we talk to the head winemaker about her journey to Mercator and learn about some of her favorite experiences you can enjoy at the winery. Learning about how this ailing estate vineyard had been cared for and restored had been a heartwarming experience. To learn more about the inner workings of the vineyard, I joined Becca for an up-close look at some of the vines. We are here with some of the baby vines.
So this year we planted Chardonnay. It's about 4.5 acres. It'll be 6,500 vines.
Wow.
And yeah, we planted it by hand without a GPS. So there's a lot of measuring, and I was the measuring girl, so there was a lot of walking and measuring, and I'm so glad that it's done.
Yeah, but they're so cute.
They're very happy. Yeah, they're very happy that we took the time and did them individually with with some nice soil in the bottom with a little bit of fertilizer, so it gave them a boost. They are a year old, I guess they'd be.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, so.
And then they're right next to these larger guys over here.
This is Lackady. This is Nova Scotia's kind of quintessential grape.
Okay.
It was developed in Ontario, in Niagara, in the 1950s. And it didn't really do well there because the climate didn't allow it to retain the acidity, which here in Nova Scotia with cooler nights generally, we retain the acidity that we need for this grape. The Lackady has natural defenses because of its ancestry with the native varieties. So we can plant that own root. So we can just stick that right in the ground and don't have to worry about the process of grafting and anything like that.
Okay.
And it has really nice upright growth, which is handy. It doesn't flop everywhere or be precumbent like some of our varieties, like New York Muscat, for instance. Nice loose clusters that help with disease management. So with tight clusters, you can often get botrytis and bunch rot, but these you're able to get spray penetration in, and you don't have those compact clusters that will yield or that will result in some bunch decay.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just about at veraison, which is the point when things start to ripen. So when the sugars and water flow into the grapes, they start to color, they start to grow. Right now, they're hard as rocks. Yeah, so it's a pretty exciting time. And early mid-September, we'll be harvesting these guys. So it's not far away. So all of the Chardonnay, all of our vinifera have rootstocks. So
Okay,
yeah.
but not the Lackady.
No, they can go right in the ground.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those are Céval's the same. We can do that own root. New York Muscat. So most of the varieties that we have here, we can just plant. If you were so ambitious, you could start vines yourself, like at home, and plant them.
Were you that ambitious at one point?
No. I let the pros do that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for showing me around, Becca. This is awesome.
Thanks for coming.
After seeing the different phases of the vine growth, we headed inside, where I had the opportunity to meet the head wine guru, Gina. So Gina, tell me about your role here at Mercator.
So I'm the head winemaker here at Mercator Vineyards that oversees the winemaking process.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit about what that entails.
Wow, a lot of things.
Yeah.
So obviously working closely with the vineyard managers to bring in the fruit at the optimal ripeness. Obviously moving things through fermentation. So when yeast basically produce wine from eating the sugar of the grapes, through the aging process, some of which are in barrel, and of course the blending process that happens after that as well.
So winemaking is a very complex process.
Yes.
And I don't imagine you started off being like, oh, maybe you did. I want to be a winemaker when I grow up. So how did that come to be? What was that moment for you?
It's a good question. I wanted to become a doctor, first a medical doctor. So yeah, had that in my mind. And so I did a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry at UNB in Fredericton. And through that process, I worked a summer job at Yost Vineyards in northern Nova Scotia. My family's not one kind of from a wine background. I didn't drink wine. We drank, I guess, wine on Christmas and New Year's, and that was it. And yeah, and so I took this job there, and I was fascinated with wine. I had no idea that there were so many different varieties, different flavors, and I guess that's when the bug bit. And then from there on in, I decided not to go into med school, got into the winemaking side, did a sommelier program. And then also went to Brock University, where you can get a Bachelor of Science in viticulture, grape growing, and enology winemaking. So
Wow.
It's funny how a summer job can change your life.
Right? So it's like you're kind of like a doctor of wines now.
Let's call it that. I like that.
Is that on your card?
I should. You know, antioxidant supplier.
Yeah,
you know,
wine doctor.
has antioxidants.
Somebody needs to be. And thank you, by the way.
Oh, no problem.
Gina, tell me about the experience that you want the customers to have when they come here.
Yeah, we really focused on experience when we opened Mercator several years ago. Together with the retail manager and a good chunk of our team, we really sat down and were very planful at focusing what we wanted here. And again, it's the experience. So part of the experience is a small, intimate setting. Rustic chic is kind of the feel when you walk in here, and really focused on wine and also the food pairing. So we actually had some flight boards specially made that have slots for 4 wines and places to put little food items. So one of our flagship experiences is called the Mercator Experience, where we have 4 wines, 4 of our flagship wines, or our wines that kind of are the core of Mercator, and then we have some roasted almonds, we have some olives, we have a little bread, little cheese. On the experience, so that you think about food and wine together. It's all about the overall experience. We want people to be able to sit back and be quiet and learn about the wines in a more intimate setting. We don't do big bus tours here. We can't really accommodate them, but we just want people to really be sort of engrossed in the wine, if that makes sense. I think one thing about Nova Scotian wine, and if we're talking both reds and whites and rosés, I think some people always forget about that great little category. But we make food-friendly wines. We have a cool climate, so it means we have nice acidity, nice aromatics, moderate alcohol. So you can have a wine that goes well with food. So like Tidal Bay goes great with seafood and shellfish. Moderate alcohol, a little hint of sweetness, great aromatics, great minerality. Naturally goes with seafood. And then you flip over and you want to have a steak from locally raised beef or lamb or something like that. You still want to have a moderate alcohol, a bright acidity to help kind of round out the palate. And so I always say we make food-friendly wines.
Yeah, which is great because I love food too.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm at the tasting bar and describing a wine, I think probably 60% of the time I'm talking about food that goes with it, and then the 40% of the time I'm talking about the wine and its characteristics.
All very important.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah.
Next up on Slainte. I sit down with Mercator's retail manager and try a sampling of one of their most popular boards. From rosemary-infused chocolate to maple syrup wine, our most unique tasting ever is up next. From seeing the traditional building and grounds restored to learning about the types of grapes cultivated into fine wine, Mercator Vineyards has been an absolute delight. Next, I sat down with the retail manager, Nadia, to try one of their most popular pairings, the chocolate flight. So Nadia, tell me a bit about your role here at Mercator.
So I'm the retail manager. I've been with Mercator since we opened last year, May 18th, and pretty much just making sure everything's all working tickety-boo here in the shop and encouraging more bottle sales here. We have designed 4 wines. So we have our Compass Rosé, our Upper Ridge Marquette, our Reserve Marquette, and also our maple wine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we've paired with individual chocolates that were made specifically for each wine. Wow. So the rosé, it's a beautiful, beautiful Provence-style rosé, a little on the drier side, off dry, but it does have an incredible.
It's beautiful.
I know, the color's gorgeous. Oh. And it's our best sellers by far. Yeah. Rosé is really hot in the summer, so we've actually paired this rosé with a 76% grapefruit jelly filled chocolate. So rosé and chocolate, it's never really been, thought of to really enjoy that way. But we've actually designed the grapefruit jelly in the chocolate to be a little bit more bitter. So it does complement some of the subtle grapefruit notes you get in this rosé.
Oh, wow.
Really brings it out well.
This is such just sitting here and having you talk through all of this with me is such an experience already. I haven't even tried anything. I'm just so excited.
So I always recommend just taking a little bite of the chocolate first.
Okay.
Get that taste in your palate. Wash it down with a little wine and then repeat.
Okay, the chocolate's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's definitely one of the most popular flights that we have. It's
Oh my gosh. Well, a chocolate flight. I don't think I've seen this before. I bit into it a second time and then just fell apart, so I just ate it all.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I love how it's it's like a completely different wine. It's like a whole other experience.
Yeah.
Just tasting the wine with the chocolate. And how different notes play off each other. One enhances another one. It's so interesting.
Absolutely. It's great. Food can make or break the wine. You could have a gorgeous wine and have the wrong food pairing, and it totally takes away from your experience. So having something designed properly and that works is just really, really neat.
Man, that's amazing. Okay, so let's try this next one. What's here?
So this is our Upper Ridge Marquette. Marquette's a grape variety that we've planted here roughly around 7 years ago, and it's a really nice upcoming red grape for Nova Scotia. And we've actually paired that with a 70% dried cranberry chocolate.
Oh, wow. I'm so excited to try this. Because I don't normally like a darker chocolate. I mean, I like all chocolate, but I wouldn't, buy a whole bar of it.
Absolutely.
That's gonna look great. So I'm trying to bite into it. Yum.
It's so refreshing.
What is happening? That's amazing. Trying it with this wine, especially when it first mixes, it's just so smooth.
Absolutely.
And then I took another little sip, and then I could taste more of the characteristics of the wine just on its own, and how it's changed is unbelievable. So I see what you mean by saying that it's food friendly.
So the Reserve Marquette, this is, like I said, my favorite wine that we have.
And this chocolate that goes with it.
So we've actually paired it with this 70% rosemary ganache. So we infused rosemary into the ganache of the chocolate.
How do I experience them both without? I'm just gonna eat them together.
I know we need to have actual full bars of chocolate for each wine, right?
Oh, this is delicious. Okay, onto the wine. How do you not just sit here all day and being is this chocolate good? Really, really lovely.
I'm glad to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the last wine on our chocolate flight is actually called a maple wine. So
Wow.
This is 100% fermented maple syrup, which we were able to get 12% alcohol with. It's gorgeous, and we actually paired that with a milk chocolate that also has a salted caramel filling.
No,
So
that's amazing.
dangerous.
I don't know which to Oh, wow. Okay, right. We'll just go back to our basics. Try the chocolate first. Okay. Must try wine. No, that's so creamy.
Yeah, it's a really, really great pairing. This is probably the most favorite pairing out of all of them.
I feel like I'm eating dessert.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Glad to hear.
No, they just kind of wash together. I can't even almost distinguish which is which.
Yes.
And I'm surprised, because usually you can at least tell where something is coming from. I've even just tried the chocolate, but oh my goodness. It's so light. Very sweet, but not in a sickly, overly sweet kind of way. It's a light sweet.
Absolutely.
It's oh, it's so good, and it reminds me of those maple sugar candies.
Yes.
You know, when you eat one of them, it kind of just melts into your mouth.
Absolutely.
When it melts into your mouth, that's kind of what this is like. Except those are usually grainy, and this is completely smooth. That's amazing.
I'm so glad. I wish I could join you.
I feel bad. I actually feel bad right now.
No, it's all good. I can have the chocolate part.
Would you like some of my half-eaten chocolate?
No, it's all good.
You've got fresh chocolate back there. It's so good. After a glorious day of discovery at this enchanting winery in Grand Pré, Becca lent me a bike, which I packed with a fresh baguette and a delightful new wine to try. I was inspired by the reinvigoration of Mercator Vineyards, and it occurred to me what other things that seem lost can actually be saved with a little love and kindness. Not only had Mercator risen to become a major player on Nova Scotia's boutique wine scene, their sensational pairings of wine and local artisan food had me excited for more as I headed off down the Harvest Moon Trail and on to the next adventure.